The first lesson that I took from 38 is really the importance of your reputation and a person's reputation. And this isn't really something that I had thought about too much before, even though you hear it all the time. It's sort of, in some ways, it's sort of just like a trade expression that your reputation is everything. But I had two experiences in the past year during 38 where I returned to places that I hadn't been for a long time, but that I had lived for a while. And the first was returning to Caraíva, which is my sweet Brazilian island that I've loved living on, and that I got to spend 2.5 years. And I was absent for 3 years, and I came back, and I didn't tell anyone I was coming back. And what I learned was just how important it is to leave a place with good relationships, with good connections, and with the respect of people around you. And the reason why I record this podcast is to share what I learned, and that I hope that it helps someone make one positive change in their life. Now, when I say that your reputation is everything, I don't even mean it, definitely not in a Machiavellian way, and not even in a utilitarian way, in the sense that it's not about what can I get. Okay, so I've left with, I have a good reputation in a place. Now, what do I get? Or how can I leverage this to get what I want? That's not what it's about. What I learned from coming back to Caraíva after being gone for a long time was just the importance of beautiful relationships and the positive impact that you make on people. And it is a really, really good feeling for yourself when you see that people are happy and excited and surprised to see you. And if nothing else, when I left Caraíva after being gone for so long, one thing I was very present to was how much love there was for me there and how much love I have for that place. And I think at the end of the day, the point of life is to love and to share love as best as we possibly can. And so reputation in that context was really, really important. It was something that I never thought about, and then I came back. Then more recently, I was in Vancouver, British Columbia, which is a place that I also lived for 4 years, and I hadn't been there for a while as well, to Vancouver itself. And it was just so cool going back to the places where I used to spend time and seeing the people who I would hang out with and meeting with old mentors and old friends. And again, it's so important that wherever you live or wherever you are, that you make a positive impact on people. And again, it's not important for any selfish means, or it doesn't mean that you're going to get something or you'll have some form of advantage or anything like that. It just feels really, really good to realize, oh, I lived in this place, I made all of these connections, and I left the people better than I found them. And I had so many fun conversations with friends, remembering things from the past or thinking about what we used to do and laughing about it and realizing, I would be talking with friends or mentors and I'd say, oh, you taught me this, and they would say similar things to me. And to me, that's just one of the best things about life, the ability for human beings to influence and uplift and support and motivate and inspire each other. And your reputation's totally linked to that. And I couldn't even imagine a future where I had a bad reputation and people are angry to see you, they don't want to see you, there's conflict, you've wronged them, whatever it is. So I think reputation was a big, big thing of this past year for me, and the awareness of realizing that, okay, I want to continue to invest in this more, and that anywhere I go to visit, that I want to make sure that I'm able to leave with a positive reputation and empower and inspire and connect with the people who are around me. The next one has to do with the power of the mind. And this is what I learned and what I continue to learn. Maybe this wasn't something in my past year where I was like, oh, I never knew this, now I know this. but there are just so many examples where I realize and continue to become aware to the fact that everything that we create in our reality comes from our mind. And a lot of what comes in our mind are based on the thoughts that we think. And I'm such an advocate for being very focused and being very intentional on the thoughts that we think and what we're thinking about and why we're choosing to think about those particular things. Because I have time and time again, I've been able to create things in my life through the power of my mind or through the power of thought. And if anyone is thinking of anything that they want to create, an impact they want to have, a business they want to launch, a relationship they want to have, a way that other people see them, the way they see themselves, anything that we're talking about in that realm, everything starts with the power of the mind and the ability for you to be aware, have consciousness about your thoughts, have intention around your thoughts and actions, and selectively choose what you're focusing on. So this year, there's a whole list. Taking my business to new levels, taking my fitness to new levels, organizing a retreat for the first time, financial goals, travel goals, everything. Launching this podcast is something that I did during this year as well, which has been really meaningful and important for me. So all of these just come from ideas in your mind, and the more that we can focus and develop that, the better it's going to be. The third thing that I really learned and remembered this year is the importance of retreat. And I share this on the heels of the Dr. Joe Dispenza 2-week meditation retreat that I did. Also the ayahuasca ceremony that I had and that I've shared about. And also just I think I was in Africa. I stayed offline for 2 weeks. Any period of my life, what I realized is any time that I'm able to go on retreat or have retreat, which basically means being offline, usually doing something a little bit uncomfortable or different that's out of my comfort zone, and doing it for a short period of time, a short condensed period of time, I come back from those experiences so much stronger, intelligent, motivated, refreshed, inspired. That again, it's sort of like taking the time to get your mind right. Retreat is counterintuitive because you would think that by taking time off, you're losing or you're missing or you're not being productive or you're wasting or something like that. But I know with certainty that the best version of myself always emerges after those retreats. Not necessarily on those retreats or those experiences, because a lot of the time it's difficult. Like the Dr. Joe Dispenza week-long retreat, you're up at 4 o'clock, you're up at 5 o'clock, you're up at 5:30, you're up at 6, you're meditating for 5 hours a day. So that's not super fun and super easy, but it is something that ultimately levels you up. It's a software update for an individual. So the power of retreat is something that I advocate for, and that's been a really, really positive example for me. Another lesson that I learned this past year is just that life is really about getting back up. And time again, I'll try something, I'll want something, I'll work for something, and it just doesn't work. And it doesn't work, and it doesn't work, and it doesn't work. And not only do I observe this in myself, but I observe this in a lot of my friends and the people who I spend a lot of time with, that anyone who's trying to create something or pursue the life of their dreams or pursue goals or do something challenging, all that's going to happen is you're going to try a whole bunch of stuff and 90% of it's not going to work. And the ability of persistence and grit and resilience and the ability to get back up after you fail, that's really the key to working towards what you want in life. There was a long period of time where they did not succeed, and that the only reason why they got to where they are is because they continued trying. And the reason why it's important for me is, like I was saying, at an earlier point in my life, I would take failure personally. And I would attach personal meaning to failure. So, I didn't do this thing that I wanted to do and I didn't get it. And I tried this really good idea, but the idea didn't happen. Now, oh, I didn't do it. There's something wrong with me. I'm not good enough. All these sorts of stories and meaning that I would attach to this. And now I just realize this is the nature of things. The nature of things is that the high majority of things that you try aren't going to work, especially the first time, but you just keep on going. So you keep on going, you try something new, you try in a different way, you experiment, you tweak it, and that's your life. And it's been really, really helpful through the examples that I've gone through, but also that I've seen my friends go through this past year, where I realized, oh, the nature of life is persistence and resilience and grit. And that's just what we do and what we have to do. And I don't expect to get anything right the first time that I do it.
Hello, world. This is Corey from A Little Bit Different Podcast. I'm going to tell you a statistic now. You're not going to believe it. Only 22% of people who listen to the Little Bit Different Podcast actually subscribe or like the channel. So right now, I'm on a mission to get 250 subscribers to the channel by the end of the year. Will you help me? I'm hoping that the answer is yes. So please, anytime you watch any of our content, subscribe, hit subscribe, that whole button there, and like it and share it and keep being different and having the most fun ever.
A really important lesson for me this past year also has just been giving myself permission. So I know that this sounds really flaky and maybe esoteric, but I'll explain a little bit, and it's been the most helpful tool for me. Giving myself permission to feel how I want to feel means that in any particular moment, I'm not always going to feel motivated to exercise. I'm not always going to feel motivated to invest my resources or money. I'm not always going to feel motivated to work. Sometimes when I'm in a relationship, I don't always feel motivated to be in a relationship. In the past, I would get really, really upset or angry with myself when I would catch myself in those moments, right? So what's the expectation? That I'm going to work 100% effort on my business all the time, never stop? No, I go through periods where there's a 2 or 3 week period where I'm so dialed in and all I'm doing is fixing processes, fixing systems, implementing new ideas, doing all that stuff. And then sometimes there's like 5 or 6 days where I'm like, I'm over this. I'm not into this right now. And in the past, I would be really hard on myself and force myself even to like, okay, and look, a lot of the times I do things that I don't want to do. So I'm not saying that this gives you permission not to do things that you don't want to do. But when I give myself permission to feel unmotivated, if I'm in a relationship and I'm not super inspired or interested in the relationship, or if I don't feel like going to the gym or I don't feel like exercising or doing something, in the past I would be really hard on myself. But what I've learned as I've gotten older is that you just have to pick your pockets and be okay with yourself not being into something for a day. And even though I try to be a really athletic and energized and inspired and productive member of society, yes, there are days that I will just sit and eat popcorn. And that's because sometimes I just feel like sitting and eating popcorn. And what happened in this past year that's really been a big difference is allowing myself to do that. Allowing myself to, some days for work, I cancel all of my meetings and I'm like, no, today's not my day. Today's not the day to do anything. I'm going to relax or go to the sauna or watch a movie or just eat whatever I want to eat, and that's how I'm feeling today. And I know that more than 80% of the time I'm not like that, but just the process of life is so much easier when there's an element of self-compassion and patience and love and kindness and tenderness with yourself, to not have that expectation to always be on and always do everything perfectly. So that's been really helpful for me. Another thing I've learned is that most disappointment that I have in my life is self-generated. So a lot of the times I'll set, and I'm an ambitious goal setter. I think anyone who listens to this or who knows me would understand that. But a lot of the times I'll set an ambitious goal and I won't hit it. And then I'll be disappointed in myself and I'll be like, why didn't this happen? How did I not get this? What went wrong? What's wrong with me? How am I incapable? What am I missing? And then I would just take a step back and be like, wait, but isn't this just a totally arbitrary metric that I decided? And so what does it mean that I didn't hit or meet an arbitrary objective that I decided? It doesn't mean anything. It just means that I set an intention to do something and I didn't do it exactly that way. And when you realize, for me, I'll only speak for myself, when I realize that most of the reasons why I'm disappointed are only because of things that I created, then it's easy for a lot of the time to be less disappointed, which is an awesome way to be in life. And this happens, and I think expectations is deeply, deeply connected to this idea of disappointment being self-generated. A lot of the times you expect a person to behave a certain way, you expect something to go a certain way, and it doesn't. But the only reason why you'd be disappointed about that is because you didn't get what you thought you were going to get. And I think being able to detach from that expectation or a self-generated goal, intention, ambition that doesn't materialize, it's just like, why are you making yourself feel bad? Just, you're the one who created this anyways, so why don't you just relax and be easy and be nice on yourself? As you can see, a lot of these lessons are self-soothings and things that I've practiced and that are important to me, because the point of life is to feel good and to share love and to have fun. And so I think this was a big year for fine-tuning. Another thing that I learned as well is that life is a series of habits. I talk about habits a lot because habits are the majority of how we form our time. And what really was evident to me in this past year was just how important habits are, but also how easy it is to build habits and to change habits. So I really saw that with my decision to stop smoking weed. Over the past year, it was something that I was doing consistently and that I felt really comfortable doing, and I was just in the habit of doing it. And then I just changed my behavior, I changed my habit, and then it just stopped. And it was the most jarring and evident element to the experiment or going through that process was when I was smoking weed, I couldn't see myself not smoking weed. And then when I stopped smoking weed, I couldn't see myself smoking weed. And it was such a moment of detachment from myself, because I realized like, oh, this isn't even about me or what I want to do or what I like doing. It's just what I get used to doing. And so in the same way that developing your mindset, I think, is really, really important in terms of focusing on your mind, creating intentions, being intentional with what you create. In the same vein, I think that developing the skill of knowing how to build or break a habit is the best investment that you can make for yourself and for your life. Another lesson in 38 that I learned is that you'll know when you know. So what you'll know when you know means is that you know the right thing when it comes along, whether this is personal, professional, familial, whatever it is. You inherently, deep down inside of you, when you meet the right person, when you are doing the right thing, when you feel that you're in the right place. And conversely, you also know when you're not in the right place, when what you're doing doesn't feel right. We know all of this, and just, it's so obvious. And for so many years, I set an intention in my life of just, the intention was, you'll know it when you see it. And I experienced that a lot in this past year. And I share this as a reminder for everyone, just to say to you, to sort of whisper in your ear, hey, if you're doing something that's awesome and you feel great while you're doing it, you know it. You know that that's what it is. You know it's the right thing. And conversely, if you're doing something that you know isn't the right thing, that's also very, very telling as well. And then it's always helpful to act appropriately. The theme of medicine and ceremony was a very, 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 very big part of this past year of my life. And just looking at it's a context frame about how I look at things like psilocybin and mushrooms, and how I looked at ayahuasca, and how I look at meditation. And for me, ceremony and medicine completely shifted the course of my daily life in the most positive way. It's the most positive impact that really changed me in such a beautiful, loving, positive, constructive, impactful way. And I have a new appreciation for medicine and ceremony. And again, like I mentioned when I spoke about this in other podcasts, I think a big part of the difference is intention. And maybe, when I was 16 or 17 and I ate mushrooms, it was like, oh, let's have a crazy experience. Let's do this. Let's get crazy. Now my intention is very, very pure and very, to open my heart, to be filled with love, to raise my consciousness, to raise my awareness. And it's a fine detail, but it makes all of the difference. And this past year, medicine and ceremony played a starring role really in the back half and catapulted me to a different stratosphere of how I live and how I love. In this past year also, I've learned so clearly and continue to learn that life is a series of ups and downs, and positives and negatives, and good things and bad things, and winning and losing. And I see it in myself, where I can go through a period of work of 3 weeks where all I touch is gold. Everything's growing, everything's going perfectly as we want, everything's happening. And then I can go through another period of time where nothing's working. And what I've learned is that it's beyond me. It's not about me. It's just the nature of how the world works, where there are really good times and there are really challenging times. It's the same with friendships, with personal relationships, with health. There's moments where I'm super, super disciplined for a long period of time and I'm dialed in, and there are moments where I'm less so. And it's just, self-compassion is such an important piece to all of this. And as I've gotten older, when I'm in the good times, I appreciate them and I recognize and I'm aware of it, and I'm like, whoa, this is a really good time that's happened. This is an amazing time. And when I'm in bad times, I'm like, okay, well, this is just a challenging period, and I just have to get through it and keep trying my best and be easy on myself during this period. I've seen it with all of my friends, with everyone in my life, that life is a series of ups and downs. And once we accept that this is the nature of how the world works and how life works, again, we become a lot easier on ourselves, because in a high moment when things are awesome, it helps you be aware and cognizant of it in a really loving way. And when things are challenging, you just realize like, oh, I'm just going through a challenging period. And there's always going to be challenging periods. And I can remember last time I was through a challenging period, after that was an awesome, successful, easy period. And just sort of waiting and being present to that. Only a couple more lessons here very, very quickly to wrap up the year. The last three are, one is that success is in the agency of others. The older I get, the more productive I am, the more successful I am in my own terms and in the way that I view and define success for myself. It's only possible because of the support of so many amazing people. And I just know that whatever I want to do in the future, whatever I want to create, however I want to create it, personally and professionally, everything is going to come from the support of other people. And my job is to be the best version of myself, to support others as best as I can, and to realize that whatever it is that I want to achieve, I'm not going to do it on my own, and that I'm going to do it with amazing people around me. This touches on all areas of life. In every area of my life, I have a team of amazing people who I work with, who support me and who I support in different ways as well. And just realizing and reinforcing and doubling down on interpersonal connections and dependency and connection and community to achieve goals is so important. Love has been a central theme of this past year of my life, which I feel very, very grateful for. And I feel that I've arrived to a new level of consciousness and awareness for how much love I have in my heart for myself, for being alive, for the amazing people around me, and just for humanity in general. And just realizing that in any point of decision making, the choice is always love. And that at any given point, you can either be love or you cannot be love. And for me, that's what I'm taking into 39, to try to be love as much as possible. And I don't think that there could be any more important investment to make. The last thing that I learned from my 38th year was just that everything that I need, I already have inside of me. There's nothing external, there's no validation, there's nothing material, there's nothing extra that I don't have in order to be happy, to be loved, to be the best version of myself, to be appreciative, to be grateful, to be inspired, to be happy. Everything that I've ever needed is always inside of me. And if I ever think about something that I want to create, something that I want to have, something that I want to do, it's never, once I get this external thing, then I'll be able to this. Or once I have this, then that. I don't play that game anymore. I'm 100% completely fully aware that everything I have is inside of me. And when you have that feeling, it's a wonderful knowing, and it's really, really inspiring. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode, this podcast. Thank you for giving me the self-indulgent liberty to share what I've learned. And I hope that something positive resonates for it. I hope that you have an amazing year, continue to have an amazing year. I hope that if it feels in alignment for you to develop these practices of reflection and realizing how far you've come in a short period of time, 365 days. So I love you very much. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, whatever it is that you do, stay different. Peace.